What if the man you underestimated turned out to be the one person you couldn't escape? This isn't just a story of racism, it's a shocking tale of deception, revenge, and justice served cold. Prepare to have your assumptions shattered. Bryson, a 48-year-old stocky white man, was jolted awake early in the morning by noise from next door. Annoyed, he looked out the window and saw a large, muscular black man in his 42s, one of the new tenants. Bryson squinted as he saw two police officers emerge from the man's house. Without a second thought, he opened his front door and shouted, "Hey, you black criminal, keep it down, will you? It's too early for this crap. Don't make the cops come back and haul your ass off to jail." The man's unreadable eyes remained fixed as he rearranged the boxes on his porch. Feeling smug after his outburst, Bryson turned toward his house and noticed a large box near his property line. He kicked it hard, sending it rolling across the pavement, then stomped over, annoyed. He snarled, "Get this dirty black garbage off my land." Jackson finally spoke, his deep voice forceful but calm. "You're destroying my property, but why?" Bryson's voice rose as he scoffed. "You have your junk on my side. I should put it in the garbage. I should be grateful that I didn't do worse. You have no right to speak to me in such a manner." Jackson's hands clenched into fists and his jaw tensed. He took a step toward Bryson, his massive body looming over the man. Tension seemed to be building for a minute, as though a fight was about to break out. Then, however, Jackson closed his eyes and inhaled deeply. Bryson stood there, victorious, while he silently picked up his package and carried it inside. Mistaking Jackson's reserve for fear, Bryson grinned. He whispered to himself, "That's right. I knew you would give up. Most likely afraid I'd contact the police once more." Feeling triumphant, Bryson went back to his morning coffee, completely oblivious of one important fact. Jackson's presence in the neighborhood wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. And the threat Jackson posed to Bryson wasn't something he could outrun or bully away. The following morning, Bryson heard a knock at his door, sharp and insistent. Annoyed, he swung the door open, already expecting the unwelcome sight of Jackson. Sure enough, there he was, holding a plate of cookies, his face a careful mask of politeness. "I made these to introduce myself," Jackson said, his voice calm, almost too calm. Bryson's expression soured instantly. "I don't need to play neighborly with your kind," he barked, his words snapping through the air like a whip. Without hesitation, he snatched the plate from Jackson's hands and slammed it into his face, the cookies crumbling and scattering across the porch. Before Jackson could respond, Bryson slammed the door shut, muttering curses under his breath. Behind the door, he imagined Jackson standing there, humiliated, and it filled him with a petty sense of triumph. Outside, Jackson took a moment to wipe his face clean, his hands trembling slightly before he turned away and retreated to his home without a word. The next day, Bryson took his trash to the curb, only to spot Jackson hunched over his garbage bin. The man's broad shoulders stiffened when he noticed Bryson approaching. For a moment, Jackson froze, as if caught in the act of some unspeakable crime. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Bryson barked. I was just looking for something," Jackson stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Bryson sneered, his contempt curling his lips. "Figures, trash like you belongs in the trash." He didn't wait for an explanation. With an exaggerated swing, he hurled the bag of garbage he was carrying straight at Jackson. It hit with a sickening thud, spilling coffee grounds and rotting leftovers onto Jackson's shirt. "There," Bryson said, his tone dripping with venom. "Take your pick, you filthy black rat." He didn't bother watching Jackson's reaction, turning on his heel and stomping back to his house, slamming the door behind him. Jackson stood there for a long moment, wiping the mess off his shirt with slow, deliberate movements. His face was impassive, but his hands shook faintly. He cleaned up the mess and returned inside without saying anything. Days went by with no sound or disturbance from Jackson, and Bryson was smugly relieved. Perhaps he believed the man had finally realized his role, but that delusion was dashed one afternoon when Bryson looked out his window and saw Jackson standing next to him, pointing toward Bryson's house with a pair of binoculars in his hand. Bryson felt rage bubble up in his chest. He rushed to his gun cabinet without thinking, took out his shotgun, and marched directly to Jackson's door. Through the silent street came the sound of his fist hammering against the wood. "Open the damn door, you bastard," he shouted. When Jackson answered, he barely had time to react before Bryson shoved the barrel of the shotgun against his forehead. Jackson's eyes widened in fear, his hands instinctively raising in surrender. "You're spying on me, huh?" Bryson growled, his voice low and dangerous. "If I catch you looking at my house again, I'll blow your damn head off." Jackson's voice wavered.
"I won't do it again. Please don't shoot." Bryson sneered at the man's trembling form, his finger hovering over the trigger for a moment longer before he finally lowered the gun. "You're lucky I'm feeling generous," he spat, turning to leave, "but don't think I'll let it slide next time." As Bryson stormed back to his house, he didn't notice the quiet intensity in Jackson's eyes as the man closed the door, nor could he foresee the storm that was about to crash down on his life that very night. In the dead of night, as Bryson slept soundly, an unusual noise from the living room pulled him awake. Instantly, his instincts kicked in. He grabbed his iPad and checked the security cameras. It was Jackson. He had broken into the house and was trying to crack open the safe in the living room. Bryson sneered, "That damn rat's dead tonight. I'm going to catch him." Quietly, he retrieved his gun and made his way down to the living room. As he approached, something caught his eye. The secret door leading down to the basement was wide open. Bryson's calm composure slipped into a cold panic. He rushed to the basement, where he found Jackson, phone in hand, filming the stash of drugs surrounding them. The entire basement was a warehouse of illicit substances, piles of drugs in every form, machinery to process them, and even a section dedicated to growing cannabis. At the sound of Bryson's footsteps, Jackson quickly tucked his phone away. But it was too late. Bryson pointed the barrel of his gun directly at Jackson's forehead and spoke in a low, deadly voice, typical of a filthy rat sneaking into others' homes to steal. "But unlucky for you, you picked the wrong house, the house of a drug lord." Jackson's face drained of color, his voice shaking with panic. "Please don't kill me. I'll leave. I won't say anything. I promise. Just let me go." Bryson's eyes were cold. He had heard this before, the same begging. He wasn't moved. "No, the only thing that stays silent is the dead." A twisted smile curled on his lips as he squeezed the trigger, sending a bullet straight into Jackson's heart. Jackson crumpled, lifeless, to the floor. Bryson grinned, thinking he had just disposed of another worthless thief. He felt no guilt for taking a life. Instead, he retrieved a sharp knife, still chuckling to himself, muttering, "You'll be fertilizer for my weed." He was a cold-blooded man. Just as he was about to dismember Jackson's body, the sudden blast of gunfire from outside shattered his thoughts. Bryson grabbed his own weapon, ready to confront whoever dared disrupt his territory. But then something impossible happened. Jackson, covered in blood but seemingly unaffected by the bullet, sprang to his feet as if nothing had happened. Bryson stood frozen, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. Jackson flashed a smirk, meeting his eyes, and said, "You've been tricked." Before Bryson could react, the door flew open and police officers swarmed in, taking him down in seconds. It wasn't until they had him in handcuffs that Bryson finally fought back, struggling and screaming, "Let me go. That damn black bastard deserves to die." But it was too late. He was caught, charged with drug trafficking, manufacturing, and murder. As the officers dragged him up the stairs, Bryson, still in shock, shouted at Jackson, "Who the hell are you?" Jackson, no longer the fearful man Bryson had seen moments before, answered calmly, "I'm the head of the anti-drug squad. I came here to take down your operation. It's time to face the consequences of your actions." Bryson couldn't believe how easily he had been caught. If only he hadn't underestimated Jackson because of his race. But now it was too late. Bryson would spend the rest of his life in prison for his crimes. As for Jackson, his swift and successful mission, coupled with his willingness to risk everything to bring down the dangerous criminal network, earned him a promotion. In his acceptance speech, Jackson said, "I hope one day this world will be free of crime and that racial discrimination will be eradicated from every mind." Do you believe Bryson deserved the fate he faced, or did Jackson go too far in his quest for justice?